All right, next week of NRL preview, Steve. This week we got the Seagulls, the Roosters, Titans, and Warriors. I think if you're a fan of the Roosters and the Warriors, you're going to love what we've got to say. But what about the other two, mate?
No, mate, the Titans and Manly are battling out for the spoon this year. Take it as heard here on the Leaguers Life podcast. And it'll be a battle of the spoon late in the season between the two teams. Strap in.
Oh, strong words, and you don't miss them either. Some good SuperCoach tips, so make sure you stick around for that, and we'll dive into, again, the mental side of each team's year. I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport, as I see it, is to see your vision become a reality. Find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body. Steve, how you going, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Hawk. Good to talk some rugby league last week, mate, and get some feedback off the fans. How you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Not enough people having a crack at us, so we must have actually talked some sense because we got some good feedback from people. A South fan in particular, because we didn't rate him that highly, but
Yeah.
his comment was surprisingly comprehensive. I'm like, fuck, I'll take that.
Yeah, I did notice that, mate. A South fan who was not expecting fireworks, but yeah, no, the
Wow.
feedback was positive.
He still messaged me saying, oh, I think we're going to win and all this sort of stuff. But then I think that was just, before a ball's kicked, everyone's got that sort of feeling. But the reality
Yeah,
was we were right.
yeah.
He agreed, no, not enough speed.
No, the feedback might be a little bit more negative this week, mate. We're going to have a bit of a dip at a couple of teams by the looks of this.
We sure are. And today we got Seagulls, Roosters, Titans, and Warriors. And we'll start with the Seagulls. Mate, as a Para fan, the rivalry is pretty strong. So I'm going to enjoy this. There might be a bit of backlash on this one.
Yeah, we might have just had a few Manly fans already switch off, mate.
Well, no, there's still things to like. Just not enough for mine. What about you?
Yeah, look, mate, I think they're in for a tough season. If I think about the Manly side, they're still very experienced. They've lost DCE, so that's still something a strength they're going to rely on. Trbojevic brothers, Garrick, Brooks, they've just signed Fogarty, Brown. So there's certainly some strengths there with experience, but as far as their concerns with Turbo and his injury, everything relies on his body. I think if he's not 100% fit, it's going to be a world of pain for him for Manly. How do you
So,
see that, mate?
well, I got them. They've got speed to burn out wide. That's one thing they have got going in their favour. But they've lost some real strength up front. You look at one of their best last year, Takiaho. He's 34 now.
Yeah.
He when he left, because he went to the UK for a bit, didn't he? Like
Yeah.
when he went, it was like there was injury concerns. Now, obviously, that wasn't a problem last year. He was one of the few front rowers that played most of the game. But Brown's one of those players. He's 32 now. He rips in, but he gets injured a bit. Paseka was injured a bit last year. Alloway retired. Lodge moves to the Cowboys. And the other concern I got is hooker.
Yeah.
Like you're a Dragons fan. Simpkins was good off the bench at times last year, but that hooker's been a problem for him for a while.
Yeah, it has been, and to put the pressure on Simpkins is going to be big. They got a rookie, Joey Walsh, in the system that can play a little bit of 14, but to put the pressure on Simpkins to start, they lost Gordon, I believe, signed with the Bulldogs in this off season, so a lot of pressure is going to sit on Simpkins. Whether they push with Walsh in the 14 slot to start the season or not, a lot's going to revolve around him and hooker, especially when you consider a new halfback. We were pretty harsh on Fogarty in the season wrap up. He was behind that monster pack at Canberra, probably the best pack in the comp last year, and couldn't quite get it done at the business end. This pack of forwards isn't going forward like Canberra did. So, you've just pointed out a number of them. Paseka, I got huge raps on Paseka. I think he's probably their most underrated player. He's 28. He's coming in a bit of the sweet spot for a middle, but he's coming off a season-ending injury. I think he played 2.5 games last year. So,
Yeah, and they missed him.
yeah, it's going to be a lot of pressure on a number of players, and yeah, I don't know, especially if his body doesn't hold up. I can't see this being a good season for Manly.
Yeah, and also last year they were inconsistent.
Yeah,
Inconsistent across games, but also inconsistent in games. Like there were moments, like I can remember twice in the last 2 years where we played them, and they were cutting us to ribbons for 10, 15 minutes, and then it's like someone flicks a switch
yeah,
and they look a bit like playing with strangers. Like they're
yeah,
passing it over the sideline, and that I don't know. I don't see that going away. They've lost their leader. Like we've talked about the forward depth. Might be a bit of a struggle. Injury concerns is an obvious one. If Turbo goes down, there are going to be problems. But like we've already talked about, the big fellas. Like we saw what happened last year when that was tested.
yeah.
I don't know. I've got to be honest. I don't know what their depth's like in that space. But just looking at the names, they're going to have to either have some young blokes sort of burst into the scene. Otherwise, they might not be having a tough year there if the main big men go down.
Yeah, I haven't got it in front of me. I haven't done my research on it, but I got a sneaking memory that Manly did not do well in any of the grades last year. So their pathway system, I may be wrong, but I don't think their pathway system did very well at all last year. So I think
Right.
what you're seeing on the predicted lineups, what you got, their first 13, first 17 isn't tremendous, and if they lose a couple of injuries, they're in all sorts. I look at the two halves as probably being the two that are under pressure most. Hawk with, you look at Brooks. He had the keys to the Tigers and really struggled. I don't see this team being much better, especially if Turbo goes down again than
Yep.
those Tigers teams. So a lot of pressure is going to be on him. And then Fogarty, you talk about them up and down and inconsistent. I'm assuming they brought Fogarty to try and bring some direction and a bit of calmness. How he performs with a team that isn't going forward will be really interesting early. So they got to hope they get a few games at Brookvale early in the season and get a few wins under their belt because she's going to be a rocky ride, I think, mate.
Yeah, I had the same. The players under pressure, definitely the halves, and whether that's Fogarty and Brooks or whether they bring in Walsh, well, the pressure will be on Walsh. Like there's a lot of raps on him as a young fella coming through the grades. He had a taste on that last round last year. He looked like he was pretty calm and controlled, which was
Yeah,
impressive for a first up start. But yeah, the pressure's going to be on there, and like we already talked about in the nine. If Simpkins doesn't go well or he gets injured, there's going to be pressure on that young fella coming through as well. Underrated, overrated. Now this is you probably won't like this one, but for me, underrated. Luke Brooks. I just don't think he's been in a system since he played with Moses when they were kids. When he's had a halfback outside him to run the show, there have been moments. Now, when I say that, obviously he played with DCE. But last year is not a good reflection because, like we've talked about already, the forwards weren't laying the platform. He didn't get enough opportunity. He hasn't had enough opportunity in systems that have been going well. And the last time that he did that was going back to, was it around 2018 or 27? No, maybe 2019 when he got... he polled really highly in the Dally M's because he was in a system that was working. So I just think the poor bloke, he just hasn't been in good environments really for his best football.
yeah. Well, I can't see this year being any better for him, mate. You're right. Look, Fogarty is a little bit more of an organising half than DCE is, no question. DCE likes to run the ball a little bit more, but so that will take the pressure off him. But he's made a lot of money over the years, mate, on performing. So. Yeah, you're right. I won't agree with you, but let's see how he goes this season, mate. Look, I got Paseka. Was expecting monster things from him last year, and it sounds silly because he only played 2.5 games, but he come out of the gates on fire to start the season last year. If he's fully fit and he's back to his best, I think he could have a really, really big season. They're going to need him to. So I think he's definitely one that is on the watch list for the season for Manly, mate.
And
I've broken
overrated?
the rules. Yeah, I've broken the rules a little bit here, Hawk. I hope you let me go with it, mate. I've got Anthony Seabold. I haven't picked a player. I've gone the coach, mate. He just seems to leave a trail of destruction everywhere he goes. So he took South very close with an absolute gun side that was right in their window. Outside of that, she's been tough going. Obviously, led the Broncos to their first spoon. Only just scraped in on his first year with them. And then since he's been at Manly, obviously the DCE thing last year was certainly not pleasant. There's that. The exit just didn't sit right, so something else is going on there. Even his time with Mackay in the Q Cup certainly didn't leave that in a great nick either. So I think this is Seabold's last crack at the NRL, and with the team he's putting out on paper, whether it's his fault or not, I can't see it ending well for him.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. He's certainly done a lot of learning in the coaching space, but there still seems to be something amiss there. I had overrated Manly fans.
You've gone in hard, mate, from the Parramatta angle, eh?
Mate, not even the Parramatta angle. Like, you don't hear from them for years, and then they just pop out of the woodwork. And it's almost like every other piece of history gets erased, and it just like they just happen to win a game or something, and they just pop out, and they're all very similar. They love a little chirp, and then they disappear when things aren't going so well.
They don't like leaving Brookvale either, mate. They pack out old Brookie, but they don't like leaving the area, do they?
They don't. I will give them this: when they do come to Para and things are going well, and that Manly chant goes up, they actually they do a good job. They definitely connect well. It's that siege mentality that they've got. You know, everyone hates us and we don't care, sort of thing. But yeah, mate, it's. It pains me. Some of my best mates are Manly fans, mind you. still overrated. Smokey for reps seems stupid, but Turbo, if he can stay fit, like I just think he has to be in there. But whether he can stay fit, whether he can actually get back to that level, I don't know if you had anyone else.
I mean, he's played Origin and certainly for Tonga, but I've got Olakau'atu to really make his mark. I think he's played 2 games for New South Wales and a couple for Tonga. He'll play for the Tongan team at the end of the year in the World Cup, but I think he could really take the next step if Manly can get going through the middle. On an edge, he was devastating last year. Got injured towards the back end and tried his best to come back and just wasn't fully fit. But I'm expecting a big year. So while he's already made his debut, I think you're going to see more out of Olakau'atu this year, mate.
Yeah, it's a good call. And if they decide that Crichton's on his way out to Union, maybe they put him in there. The Origin chances he had, he came off the bench. They benched. I think they used him in the middle from memory because they've had Crichton and Martin there, so he probably hasn't had a fair crack on that edge. But yeah, I'm with you there. He is a massive human, and when he's on, that try he scored last year from the kick, where he took it in the air, like, can you imagine being a fullback being underneath that? Like, no thanks.
No thanks, no chance.
Is the coach under pressure massively? You said last crack. Oh, he's already said it's his last crack. He wants to move out into administration. From everything that you read and from the stories I've heard, I think he'd be perfectly suited to that. He's all over the detail. In fact, if there's been one main reoccurring frustration is maybe too much in the detail. Those Broncos players certainly talked about how they just let us play. So yeah, he's under massive pressure.
Yeah, I think Manly's bank balance is the only thing keeping him in the side, mate. They will keep him coaching the side. They don't want to have to pay him out. Obviously, they're the Penn family don't like spending money at the best of times on Manly. So, he'll probably see his contract out unless they can do some sort of deal on the inside. But yeah, he's the first to go if they were willing to pay him out.
Yep. What about Dally M?
I got Turbo and then Daylight. So if Turbo can sort of string it together, those sunny Saturday and Sunday afternoons at Brookvale, he scores some few Dally M points and away we go. But if he doesn't or he goes down, I can't see it happening, mate. I've got Hopewade as the try scorer. I think he's he's pace to burn on that wing. And I also think if Turbo does go down, he'll slide back into fullback. So you'll see plenty of things. But I got Ola Kawatu as that smoky. You mentioned him last year. One-on-one, as it gets close to the line on those little halves on an edge, he's just pretty much unstoppable. So I can't see him, getting into the 20-odd tries for the season, but I could see him having a big year, mate.
Yeah, and if they have a lean year and they don't score a heap of tries, then he may well be there or thereabouts.
Yeah. Who you like for the try scorers?
Same. If Turbo stays fit, it's got to be him. Try scorer up. Again, a few injuries last year, Saab, but if he stays fit, mate, just the pace, just raw pace and the height, that's become a more important part of the game, the kick to the wingers. So there's definitely an opening there. SuperCoach, mate.
SuperCoach. So look, there's a couple of little ones here. Paseka at 330,000's going to be an interesting one. If he starts, I think he's a must in the front row. Probably is your third front rower, maybe fourth. There's about 35-36% of SuperCoaches have got him. Look, Turbo 700,000. If it was old Turbo and you had a bit more confidence in his body, I'd be having a crack. But it's just too unreliable in a position with guns. We spoke about Jake Simpkins earlier. He's 422. If they go with a full-forward bench, here's an option. But there are a couple of other hookers in that mid-range that I'd probably like a little bit more. And then the last one I'll mention is an old favourite of mine, is Ruben Garrick. But it appears this year he's lost the goal kicker to Fogarty. He's, as he just gets a little bit older, he's just lost that little bit of yard of pace. So at 664, he's just a little bit too expensive for me. But certainly Paseka, if he starts, he'll be a lock in my side, mate.
Yeah, it's good. In terms of mental edge, like I said, Seabold's done a heap of coach research. He's been around the world. He spent time with Eddie Jones, so he knows his stuff. But there's a clear process that they follow. But I just think that it's been probably overcooked to that extent, and maybe there's it just seems like there's something not quite right there. They've got a good mix of old and new, so there's some real good experience there and some young talent coming through, and that's always a good mix. The Manly siege mentality, just even when things are going wrong in the background, they still seem to find a way. Yeah. Whether that's enough, I'm not sure. I reckon the big loss is going to be Mick Ennis leaving. He was at the Raiders when they went within a game. He was at Para when they went within one game of the granny of winning. And he seems to be in high demand in terms of that assistant coach role. And he's at your mob now, the Drag. So I think that will be a massive positive for you guys. And I think they'll miss him. I think he seems to bring out the best in individual players, particularly the key players. We've talked about the inconsistency. I think mentally that's going to be an absolute struggle for him this year.
Yeah, great shout, mate. Yeah, I'm huge on Ennis, mate. He's proven track record as a player. He was almost like a coach out in the field as well. The way he played. So it'll be very interesting to see. I'm rather him on my team than against him, right? So, but yeah, look, adding all that up, mate. I got Manly running Snow Motherless last, and as I said at the beginning, if Turbo goes down early, it'll be an embarrassing last. I think Manly's in for a really tough season. How you see him finishing, mate?
I got him a bit higher than that, mate. I still think there's enough talent there for him to be in that mid-table logjam, and I got him 12th. That might be a bit generous from what you're saying, but I just think, there's if people stay on the park, there's enough there that they can get it done.
Let's see how we go, mate. It'll be interesting when I hear your wooden spooner nomination. Looking forward to it.
It's coming very soon. And it's not the Roosters who we go to next. I actually think they're going to have a huge year. Every year people go, premiership favourites. I don't know if they're premiership favourites, but I couldn't have been more impressed last year. I just thought they just lost so much talent, so much salary cap room. They obviously had a bit of money to spend afterwards. They filled it up with a lot of young blokes, but mate, they talked about how they looked at the world of sport and see who was the best, and it was all youth academies bringing players through. Obviously, we know what's happened at the Panthers. The Broncos have always done it well. But they've put a lot of time and effort into that, and they're getting some unbelievable players come through. So they've overachieved last year, and yet they've bought well. So their spine is now elite, and it'd be just about the strongest in the comp, I reckon.
Yeah.
They've got X factor all over the pitch. They've got depth. You know, they got Savala there. They got more young forwards coming through. They all, a heap of them got a crack last year, with some of those older guys stepping away and some injuries. I just love Nafahu White. Another one of those players that you'd love to have at your club because he's just an animal. Just love the way he plays.
Yeah.
He stepped up to all new levels last year. So, mate, there's a lot to like about him.
Yeah, mate, you've stolen some of my thunder there. Certainly their spine. Look, in a weird way, I've got them down as their strength and their weakness. Their spine's absolutely phenomenal and will be by far and away, if in mind, the best spine in the comp. It'll rival the Storm and probably get over the top of them. I just think it might be a little bit of a slow start for them. If you think they're dropping a hooker into the system, a brand new 5'8". Walker didn't play a lot of footy last year. Radley's off suspended for the first part. So I think they'll probably get off to a slow start, but they're going to come home like an absolute train. So if they're anywhere near mid-table, that origin break, look out because the Roosters are coming. The Nafahu White, he was third post-contact meters behind Hassan Fanil-Blake last year.
Yeah, wow.
And, so you talk about underrated players. He doesn't get the press or the write-ups he deserves. He had a phenomenal season. There's talk he's starting at lock, which will hopefully see more game time for him this year as well. So he's a huge one. I've got Lindsay Collins as their biggest injury concern, just for the fact he's probably their only big man. If he goes down, they've got a lot of really good middles as far as the running 13 style, the Nafil Whites, the Victor Radleys, etc., the Butchers, Steve. But that big man in the middle, I think, is still really important. So I think he's an injury concern for him. He's pretty reliable. He's pretty durable. But that's certainly something that they'll need to keep an eye on. With Hugo Savala and Watson in the side, there's a number of guys that could cover Teddy, but Teddy's just like the Terminator. He just keeps going. So I think he's probably the one that they will miss the most if he goes down injured. But what a side, mate, from 1 to 17 and then not have a spots for Savala. They're going to cause some chaos throughout this season, buddy.
I agree, and I had the same weaknesses, like that the halves in particular, and the spine needing to gel. The halves, I think back to when Moses joined Para, the Norman and Moses both talked about it. They both were trying to be the top dog, and what they both realised is if one of them had just put their ego aside and stepped to the side, they would have had a great year. So that's the only danger. Like they're both walk around. Cherry Evans are both players that like to have the ball in their hand a lot. They like to be running the show. They like to overcall, go short sides, all that sort of thing. But whether they can gel, that will be the thing. For
You'd hope
You'd
hope DCE was a little bit mature enough and confident enough in his own skin to take that second spot and let Walker do his thing. Obviously, Robson's a deliverer from dummy half. He makes his tackles in the middle and delivers. It's probably why Brendan Smith didn't really gel at the Roosters. He gets out and tries to ball play himself. So Robson will help with that. I think he'll just deliver from dummy half and let DCE and Walker do their thing. But one hell of a spine. A good problem to have.
Yeah, it makes me think of New South Wales Origin 2024, where we were getting over the advantage line and Robson's just starting out of there, giving halves early ball. Like, you could see them, absolutely killing teams. Mate, unbelievable. For me, the injuries, again, like all those big names, they've got pretty good cover. Obviously, Teddy will be a problem. But I just think two guys that are they're the sort of guys that really bring teams together. Victor Radley, he's had that many concussions and... You could say, well, he's got ill discipline, that sort of stuff. But he's one of those players that when you play with, you love playing with. There's a bit of character about him. They bring out the emotion. I think they miss him when he's not there. And Billy Smith, like defensively on the edge, he's probably, I don't know if I had him from underrated, but he's just one of those guys that provides a bit of steel there. But the poor bastard's been that injured over the last few years. It'd be good to see him string a few seasons together, because I think he's one of those guys who's a rep smoky, because he pretty no nonsense. There's nothing sort of too X factor about him in terms of bringing people through the turnstiles, but he just does everything at a really high level consistency. I really like him.
Yeah, good shout, mate. He's just professional, right? Gets the job done. So last season was the most games he's played for a long time. So hopefully, for his sake, just for the enjoyment of the game, he can get out and have a good long season, mate. I've put down DCE as the under the most pressure, mate, which might be a bit strange since he's an old veteran, Queensland captain, etc. But I don't think it's going to be long for the Cooper Cronk comparisons to come out. And with all due respects to everything he's achieved in the game, he's not at Cooper Cronk's level or standard. So I think he's going to have a lot of the spotlight on him from the get-go, and I think that's going to be it'll be interesting to see how he tackles it. He hasn't always been a friend of the media and the public in general, so it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out, especially the early part of the season. If they don't gel up until sort of Easter, it'd be really interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And if it doesn't go well, how will the fans treat him?
Yeah, correct. Especially like that Hugo Savala, well, obviously not at DCE level at the moment, had a really good season last year. The fans seem to gravitate to him pretty quickly. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with DCE and how he takes with the media and the new fan base. He's certainly not going to get protected up on in that Manly area. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. I've already pretty much talked about my underrated, Radley and Smith. Overrated, I struggle with this. I guess the only thing I could think of is we just talked about where Robson's advantage does come in, but he's not got that creative flair that a lot of the nines have now. But I think he's fit for purpose, right? Like he'll do the job that they need him to do. So I really struggled finding anything underrated about their team. I just think they're gonna, mate. It's only upside for me.
Yeah, I lobbed on Spencer Leniu as a starter. So we've seen what he does in Origin coming off the bench. I just, as a starter, I just don't see him having the workload in the minutes. If we think of big men in the middle and what the top props in the front row are doing at the moment, the top props in the NRL are doing at the moment, I think Spencer Leniu is still more of that impact player. Whether that's where he wants to be or not, I just see that happening. So as a starter, I think there could still be a little bit of a hole there. I've got Sua Wong as the most underrated. I think the way it probably works out is DC on the left and Walker on the right. And if Walker's got that little bit of ball playing, I think Wong could have a monster season on the edge. He's had a couple of seasons now to get his footing in the NRL. I think he'd start to feel a bit more comfortable in his own skin there. So to see what he does on that attacking side, he's probably got Marky Mark. I won't try and pronounce his last name on the wing on that side. So they're going to be electric. So I think Wong's in for a monster season this year, mate.
Yeah, I like that call. Good edge runner. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
No pressure on the coach. To me, Dally M, same as usual. Teddy will be there or thereabouts again. And try scorer, I do like Nawanga Nitawazi. I think he's only going to get better after a full year and then another preseason of the game. We know he's leaving, but mate, what an athlete.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. Yeah, it's easy for me, especially after what we just said with Walker's edge. I think he's in for another big season. I see Teddy as being up there again with Dally M's. He just touches the ball so much. But I think if the Roosters are going to win the comp, I think Walker needs to be thereabouts with the Dally M at the end of the year as well. I think he, to your point earlier around who's going to have the keys, I think he needs to be his team. So, I think Teddy will get there. I think Walker's the one that needs to earn the points, mate. But yeah, I'm all over Mark for leading try scorer again, mate. He'll take it to another level again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
SuperCoach.
Look, mate, for me, the Roosters are a bit of a no-go to start the season. Teddy's the most expensive player at 870, just with too many gun options at fullback. It's a little bit much. Marky Marks at 735, again, coming off a barnstorming season. I expect big things again, but there's not a lot of value there. Crichton, an old favourite at 610, mate, again, just a little bit too much. Robson is an interesting one at 497, but with the expectation he splits minutes with Watson at 9 there. If that's how they're going to do it at 497, he's just too much. So I won't be starting with any of the Roosters. I can't knock anyone who's got a couple of favourites that they've been with year in, year out, but I'll be staying clear of the Roosters to start the season, mate.
Yeah, fair call.
Yeah.
Mental edge. Robbo has been doing it for a long time. He's consistently got good results. I listened to him on the Mark Bouris podcast talk about his upbringing, and he's clearly someone that sees the world differently. So he's also looking at solutions that are outside the usual NRL sphere of high performance. I think there's an edge there. They talk about how every year they've got the theme that they carry forward, and that's always served them well when they've had a strong list. They've got star power and experience all over the park. They always look connected and aggressive, and they'll be super confident coming into 2025 after a really good year last year, and they've only added to that. So, mate, in terms of where they're going to finish, I had them at 3, and I'll leave them there, but like they could easily finish in the top 2, I think.
Yeah, I've got them finishing second, mate. I think, as I said, it might be a little bit of a slow start for them, but I think they'll come home really strongly. And traditionally, you talk about Robinson, he really gets them at the right time of season, peaking. So if he can get that right, I think he'll be. I think they're in for a good year and might even take out the top spot at the end of the season, mate. Talk to me about, you mentioned Robinson. I've always been interested in him with his coaching, and along with probably Bellamy, he's had to manage some really high-profile superstars, right? Some of them that transcend just rugby league. What do you think he uses? What talent do you think he gets out of them? Like, how does he manage these egos, these superstars so well? Because you never really see much drama out of them once they're at the Roosters.
Well, Roosters, I reckon, are pretty good at covering their tracks with a lot of different things. But also, like, they all do this. Well, they know that they have to do this, but I think he's probably better than most at tapping into the individual, their unique talents. You think about those press conferences, he's always backing his players. Every single time. So there's never any doubt about the fact that he's backing them. And like, you'd have to go back and listen to that interview, but I think he said he grew up just with his dad, or maybe it was just I can't remember the exact details, but he talked about his dad, like, did like things like energy healing, and these are sort of some of the things that you use in the personal development space, and again, it's just a different way of looking at the world that's just not that common in NRL. I was quite surprised to hear him talk about it. I've heard Ivan talk about that sort of thing as well, like the way that we connect on a level beyond what's spoken and the physical, like that sort of unspoken connection and knowing the players that create that connection. I expected the Panthers to dip last year because Cleary talked about how Luai was one of those players. He was a connector, like he was a glue, and I think Robinson's great at identifying who those players are and making sure that they are really acknowledged for that. You look at Roy Hargraves was one of those players. Yes, he was aggressive and all those things, but by all reports, away from the field, he was gentle giant. He was one of those players that brought people together, created that family atmosphere. It's that connection piece, I think. I think that's probably the part. Individual connection and then being able to nurture that team connection is what I would see from the outside looking in.
Yeah, he's one of the best man managers to do it, especially, as I said, with some of the profiles that those players he's had have come and gone, and just want to seem to come back to him. One of the best.
Yep, love it. Titans.
Oof,
I
tell you what.
I spoke to someone last year that was well entrenched in the system, and his concern last year was depth, and that's proved to be true. I look at their list now, and the depth it's worse. And yes, they've cleared out some dead wood, for want of a better term. They've got some incredible young talent there, which is where the strengths lie. But to me, it's rebuilding, and that's going to it might be a long, hard slog from this year, I reckon.
Yeah, mate, I've got that as their weakness. It's another change of ownership. I think this ownership's probably a good direction. Don't get me wrong, but it's another one. The front office is a mess. You talk about development, recruiting. They got one of the key corridors in the country. They got 3 leading schools with Palm Beach, Keebra Park, and Marsden in their catchment area. They've buggered that relationship up from the start. It's been off and on. The Warriors have just opened up an academy up at Logan. There's a lot of Pacific nations, students and schoolboy rugby league players up through that area that the Warriors are now linked to. The Titans have just been a mess from a recruitment and development from the very beginning. You talk about Coffs Harbour all the way through to the south of Brisbane area, and they've just buggered it up from the beginning. To your point, you look at that side. There, especially if you take Tino out, there aren't too many of those players that make most other teams. And then you talk about 2 other clubs coming into the comp in the next 2 years. I just don't understand how the Titans have gotten so far away from where they need to develop their juniors and to bring that pathway. They should be a development club, and they're not even close, mate. So that's certainly my weakness. Got to get their front office in order, and they've got to get their pathway system in order, mate.
Absolutely.
God bless him. I've got Tino down as their strength. I don't know how you can have one player as your strength, but I hope he's got broad shoulders, Tino, because he's it. You talk about front office players, the whole box and dice. If Tino doesn't put them on his back this year and get them over the line, I don't know where they go for the Titans, genuinely.
Mm-hmm. I interviewed Big Tukes yesterday, Mark Tukes.
Oh, yeah.
He'll be on the pod in the coming months.
Yep.
And he's just taken on one of those roles with the Warriors in Logan.
Okay. He was with South Logan for a long time, Mark Tukey.
Yeah. Well, he loves the area, and he's excited to be back at one of his teams.
Yep.
I got a good mate who's well entrenched in the clubland in the Gold Coast area. And there's a problem there from a whole lot of levels. One of them is, some of the bigger clubs who have got affiliations with other NRL clubs are selling themselves as we're the big team, and they're dragging all the talent into one place. But it's a bit of a pipe dream because it doesn't really go anywhere. It's one of those feeders that doesn't really actually equate to results, and so there's a real disparity in the leagues. There's some sort of disillusionment amongst a lot of the clubs, and disillusion with a lot of the clubs, and there obviously needs to be some strength. Some strengthening. I noticed Matty Johns apparently, he said, I don't want to get involved, but apparently I heard on another podcast that he has got himself involved in the pathways. So they've obviously identified that as a area that needs attention, and given his footy brain and knowledge, you would hope that puts him in the right direction.
I hope so, mate.
Yeah. Strengths. I had Tino at the top as well. Also fullbacks, they've got about 18 of them.
They do.
And with that star power, like Keanu Kearney, like what a player. I nearly said Preston. Jayden Campbell, like they've got some guys there who can light it up. And they've got a new coach who's going to bring in fresh ideas. And so the pressure will be off to a certain extent, to a point. But the weakness is, like I said, the rebuild. The spine is probably one of the weakest in the whole comp.
Yeah, no question.
The positive, the first year coach is also a negative, because it's like as good as he has been in other systems and as well regarded he is by everyone that talks about him, he's never done the job at that level. And the other thing is, we'll talk about depth. The depth will be tested, and they've just got a real lack of class and talent across the board that a lot of the other teams have.
Yeah. If we've just seen Jermaine Jolliffe go down with a season-ending injury, so Tino, obviously Mo Footawakers there. He's a solid middle. He's played a bit of Origin football, but with Jermaine Jolliffe down, it's Tino or bust for mine, mate. If it's one thing to say those guys at the back, they are electric with the football. If they're on the back foot the whole time, there's not too many fullbacks are starring these days if their team's not going forward. So Tino's everything for me. If he goes down injured, they may rival Manly for the spoon for mine. It all sits on him.
Agree.
You talk about Campbell. I sort of see him a little bit under pressure. It's his first full season without Kieran Foran. I know Kieran Foran's been injured a lot, but he's always been in and around the club, and there's big raps on him as that assistant coach style. So I'm excited to see what Campbell can do. If he had a forward pack going forward for him, I think he would excel. I've got a lot of. I rate him pretty highly, but there'll be a bit of pressure on Campbell early because it's his team, right? Everyone else around him's more of a running. Brimson at 5'8", probably Kenny at fullback. They're more running players, so Campbell will really need to step up in that organising role. So there'll be a bit of pressure on him this year, I think.
Yeah, I had the same thing for my injury concern and pressure. I think also the pressure will come from the whole Tino situation. Like, is he coming? Is he going? Until he commits. And it's going to happen every year by the sound of it. He's got that clause in that's going to keep showing up.
Yep.
I noticed some other clubs have been taking theirs out. They've been saying, "Well, we need to get rid of these." It's pressure they don't need, and I think I'm with you. I'm a fan of Campbell, but suddenly now he's the man, and they're going to have a tough year. It's going to be a massive amount of pressure falling on his shoulders.
Yeah.
I struggled to find an overrated and underrated. Like this,
I didn't have anyone either, mate.
Yeah,
I think we all know what we've got with the Titans. I think.
Yeah, I think AJ Brimson. I don't know if underrated, but I do feel for him given the fact that he hasn't really got a spot there, and he hasn't had a chance to be in consistently one position now for a couple of years. Desi sort of pushed him around to a whole lot of different options trying to find his best spot. He's an Origin player only a few years ago, and he's got some serious class about him. But I just think he's better than that, and it'd be good to see him if he starts at 6 and goes well. I really hope he does because I'm a fan.
Yeah, well, he made his Origin debut with Queensland early on in his career. He just lit it up. Then to your point, he's played centre, fullback. He's played 5'8", so hopefully he gets a full season at 6 or wherever position Hene's going to put him, and he can get a little bit of game time under his belt. But yeah, to your point, mate, I haven't picked anyone as a smoky for Origin or rep. Haven't picked anyone overrated. Look, at the end of the day, Footawakers and Firma will more than likely play for Queensland. If they don't, they'll be in the squad, and Tino's a lock. Outside of that, it takes something big for one of their outside backs potentially to jag a spot, but I can't see it happening, mate.
Yeah, and the coach?
Yeah, look, I think Josh Hene's the real deal. We're going to see, to your point, he's been in some pretty solid programs previously. So this is his first time, and it is an absolute rebuild. It's probably not even a rebuild. First, you've got to blow it up and start again and then rebuild it. So I think if they go in with a good, solid changes happening in the front office, I think he's the real deal. He reminds me of that Andrew Webster at the Warriors, reminds me a bit of Jason Riles. He's just no nonsense, get in and have a crack. So I really like that. If he can start to recruit his type of players, but we're talking about 3, 4, 5 years down the track, even if they start getting it right today. So I certainly don't think he's under any pressure, mate. And even the Bellamy talk, Bellamy ever gets to the Titans, surely it's only in a advisory position. I can't see him taking on a head position like that. But I'm huge on Hene. We'll just see how this unfolds, though, mate.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of those. I still think there's going to be some pressure given it's his first year. Obviously, results, they won't be expecting anything amazing at first,
Yeah,
but if you don't win games, the people are
yeah,
going to talk. I remember
yeah,
Jason Riles had a great comeback when they were talking to him about it in the mid-season, and he said, "Well, a wise man once said to me, the results are the last thing to change."
yeah.
And he was right, because it wasn't long after that where they did start stringing some
Start the
consistent
winner.
results together. It's just whether they've got the patience up there for him. I'm with you. Like, what would be the point in bringing Bellamy in unless you get him to commit to 10 years? Like, if you're going
Yeah,
through a rebuild and you're going to bring him in for 2 years, that's not going to help anything.
yeah. No, this isn't what Wayne Bennett looks for, just to put the cherry on top of a team and take them to a grand final. This is the Titans are start again sort of stuff. So I would be surprised. We'll wait and see what happens. That you talk about Tino every year. We seem to talk about Bellamy every year as well. But I like Hene. Hopefully they get their pathways in order, and they start going. I can't see anyone knocking Campbell over for Dally M. I think if they win games, I think he's going to jag points. And even if they don't, he's a chance to get the one. So can't see anyone there. And Kenny, if they give him any sort of field position, I think Kenny's in for a big year and should score a handful of tries, mate. Especially we get dry weather up here on the Gold Coast. They're not going to get the prime time slot, so they're going to play a lot of Sunday and Saturday afternoon games. So it should be dry football for them. So I think, Campbell for Dally M and Kenny for top try scorer for me, mate. You see it any different?
I think Kenny, again, if they go well, Kenny's just going to pole. And if he stays fit, like, he walked straight back into that Kiwi team last year, like, barely any football. What a freak.
Yeah.
I just think he will pole through the roof, even if they don't go well, because he's just that sort of player. He creates something out of nothing, and he'll score plenty of tries. SuperCoach.
Mate, we talk about Keanu Kinney. There's about 50% ownership at the moment. He's at 495. Obviously, with the flex, you go for 3 fullbacks. I can't see too many teams not starting with Kinney. He'll certainly be in my side.
Bargain.
Yeah, bargain, mate. Tino will be an interesting one with Jermaine Jolliffe out for the season. They could quite possibly start Tino in the front row, and if they do, he'll get dual position. And at 687, I think he's probably a must if he can jag that dual. Then there's a couple of smokies, mate. There's a bit of talk around Cooper Bye, not only with the Storm signing, but also potentially, I think he misses out to Chris Randall to start the season. But if he does jag that second row spot in front of Randall, at 235, he's a must. And I really like Curtis Morin. He signed him from the Bulldogs. He didn't get a lot of game time down in Sydney with the pack that they had through the middle. But with Jermaine Jolliffe out, and Tino pushes up front, I can't see potentially him starting at lock. But I really rate Morin. He's a hard worker, especially from a super coach perspective. Gets through a lot of the base stats, a lot of tackles, a lot of hit-ups. So just keep an eye on how Morin starts. But, yeah, there's a couple of interesting ones for the Titans. I think Campbell's just going to be a little bit too expensive to start the season on the back of a really good year last year. Talk to me, mate, about this this mental edge or this mental process with the Titans. Everyone's expecting them to probably fail again. Everyone's expecting them to pick them in the bottom 4 again. How do they get themselves up? How do they 27 weeks of NRL football, mate?
Well, I couldn't find a lot there, I've got to be honest. Like, Tino's just an absolute warrior, and he puts the team on his back, and he'll drag them up when they've got no right to be in a game, but he can't do it on his own. They've got youth, and there's a long history in rugby league of teams full of youth getting up, maybe not the whole season, but I think about that baby Broncos around the 2000s, the West Tigers in 2005, the Para of 2000, where there was like 1 or 2 or 3 good older guys, but just youth has no fear. They're not jaded by the past mistakes and the relentlessness of playing at that level. I think the new coach, again, from everything I've heard, he'll get them united and he'll bring them together. I mean, you look at, he's been heavily involved there in the Queensland setup, so he knows what that looks like. The Raps at the Sharks are, he brought people together really well, so I think they'll be really well connected. But it's going to be a tough year, mate. I think it's a struggle. Just back to what you said on the Bulldogs and Moran, I can see the Dogs becoming like what Penrith have been, almost like a feeder club. Because I think about some of those guys who've come out of that system and done well. They can't keep all of these young blokes that they've been building now for a few years. And I just think if they keep going on the trajectory they are, then there's going to be a lot of teams sniffing in and around their pathway system and their and this sort of edge of their top 30 for some absolute bargains with huge upside. We've brought a couple of them over to Para in the last couple of years. Katonga was enormous for us, and he couldn't really get a run there either. Papali was better than Handy. He may not see a heap of first grade this year, but again, he's another player that's just such a great depth signing. It's interesting that you say that around Moran, because I think that's going to be a bit of a pattern going forward.
Yeah, no doubt, mate. I think we get to talk about the Bulldogs next week, but Gus's models, go and find the best 5 I can and hope 2 of them make the NRL, and the 3 that don't, they get snapped up by another club pretty bloody quick. So, yeah, I rate Moran. I think if he can get some game time, he'll show a few things. You know, he's not quite as big, but similar to a bloke we'll talk about in the next one. Aaron Clark was big for the Titans at 13. He's not as big as Aaron Clark, but just that similar work level of work, hit-ups, tackles, etc. I think he could be good for them. So see how they go. But I got the finishing 17th, mate, and that's only because Manly... 16th.
I was going to say, how many teams can you have last?
No, second. Well, second last, mate, only because Manly are in the comp. I just think they were going to rely too much on Tino, and then obviously the outside backs are electric, but got to go forward. So I got them finishing 16th.
Yeah, and you got to put someone there, and I just can't see them getting any better than they were last year. Manly have never won a wooden spoon.
Strap in. I told you this. I told you before Christmas, mate. So we'll see what happens.
Very good. Okay, let's leave the poor old Titans behind. The Warriors. What do you like?
Mate, I like a lot about the Warriors. So the depth across the park is really impressive for the Warriors. So you talk about their edges and their second row, their centres. They've got 2 or 3 options for a couple of positions. That forward pack, absolute no nonsense. Fisher, Harris, Barnett, Clark. They've got Capewell, Haliasima, Vayamanga. Like the list goes on for their depth and their forwards especially. So I'm really expecting big things. I think early doors, Metcalf's out for about first 7 or 8 rounds. So I think early doors that will be a bit of a weakness for them. I think they could get off to a slow start with that, but the depth across the park and that forward pack are just going to cause trouble. It's hard enough going across the ditch to play them as it is, but coming up against that forward pack, she's going to be a few wild nights over in New Zealand for a few of these weaker teams. So if they can hang in tight with Metcalf for those early rounds, look, they've got some pretty good replacements. Tanner Boyd's been around. He was at the Titans, come out of one of those really good schools down here on the coast. Harris Tavita playing 6. So there's some options there for him. But yeah, Metcalf, what he did last year was big. So I see a slow start being their weakness, but one hell of a football team, mate.
Mate, I had everything exactly the same. They're largely settled. That pack is enormous, and there's depth, speed to burn out wide. Same thing, the weakness, no Metcalf for 2 months. The halves may be a weakness, just if Metcalf's not there, and then Tanner Boyd did step up last year, but he's still not at the same class as the top line halves. They struggled a bit with consistency last year. Obviously, Webster's done a great job in bringing a lot of that Penrith DNA over there. But yeah, it's...
Where do you have this pack against the Raiders pack, mate? she's going to be one hell of a battle. I hope we
Again,
get to see it early. I haven't checked the draw, but to
it's
me,
just
this
fitness.
pack's they're starting to. I don't know if I can see the Raiders. I probably lean towards the Warriors at the moment. Looking at that pack,
Yep,
mate, it's very
es-
impressive.
especially seeing some of those younger forwards there, particularly in the back row and edge. They've been there now they're starting to hit towards that sort of 50 to 100 games mark.
Yeah,
Aaron Clark just went to all new levels last year. Um, what's his name? Heck of the Wrecker. Like what a weapon. He'll only
yeah,
be better again after a full season, mate. They're going to be. They're going to again if they stay fit. Like Barnett was injured for long periods last year. Yeah, mate, I like him a lot.
yeah.
It's just that to me the worry is the halves. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see.
need McCarthy, no question. Weird one I put down for under most pressure, mate. I put Fisher Harris, and that won't be coming from anyone externally. That'll be coming from himself. You know what he's achieved with Penrith, what he's achieved for the national side has been immense. But he'd love nothing more than to win a comp for his hometown. So I think he'll be putting that on himself, which is probably a little bit unfair, but. What a player. Uh, hope he gets there for his sake of whatever else he's achieved everywhere he's been. But yeah, I just see there's a few players there that'll want to win a comp. RTS is starting to get a little bit older. Dylan, they've been around. They're Kiwi boys that have played the national side. They'd love nothing more than a premiership. So I think the pressure for the Warriors will come from within, from themselves.
Yeah. I think the pressure's on Boyd there in the halves for the first 2 months, and if anyone goes down in terms of
Yeah,
injuries, it's pretty obvious, right? It's Metcalf again, but also Egan.
yeah,
Like before Egan got injured last year, they were talking. Like I heard, I think it might have been Cooper Cronk saying he's comparing him to Cam Smith in terms of his influence and just how he played. So if they lose any of those two, that's going to be a massive problem for them. Um, I because they are rated across the pack, I struggle to find an underrated player there. Like maybe you were talking the forward pack, um, they're not quite held in the same esteem as
yeah.
some of those top teams. Um,
Yeah,
and
you're right, mate. I went Haliasima. He's made his debut for Tonga, but he is an absolute weapon on that edge. So I think like he's had his first full season. You talk about, as you mentioned earlier, having 50 odd games. So they're starting to feel like they're first graders. I think he will go to an absolute another level. He will need his halves fully fit, no question, as you mentioned. But yeah, I'm expecting. You talk about stacked forward packs. This Tongan forward pack in the World Cup is going to be something to behold. But yes, Haliasima for me, mate. And I mentioned, Haliasima then playing for the Tongans. I think he's only played one or two, but the Smokies are him and Barnett. I think both of them will start for their countries in the World Cup. I think Barnett for the Aussies and Haliasima for Tonga. I think they're both in for a big year. Barnett went down injured around that Origin season, was really building. I think he took a lot out of seeing Fisher Harris up close for the season. So I've got both of them. While they've made their debuts, I think this year could be big for both of them in that rep scene.
can't disagree with that, mate.
Yeah,
The only person I could think of for the underrated, overrated was Catewell on both categories. I think he's definitely underrated as one of
yeah,
those guys that adds. Like he's just in winning teams, and
yeah,
it's like defensively he's good. I think he's a really good communicator, but I just wonder whether he's getting to that stage now where he's probably lacking a bit of speed. Like he's starting to
yeah.
get to the that age where maybe things can start getting busted. But again, if he's at his best, well then he definitely helps them be better than they are.
Yeah, you
Um,
saw him what he did with Origin in game 2 and 3, right? He
yeah,
just come
yeah.
back and just unbelievable performance. He was in the top 5 on the paddock on both games. So yeah, great shout with Campbell.
Um, Coach, I don't see any pressure there unless they suddenly fall in a hole, but I don't see that happening. Dally M, if Egan stays fit, he was in and amongst it last year, and I can see that being the case, especially with no Metcalf for the first couple of months, and try scorer just DWZ again. The Soul Glow, getting that done in the air, and he's quick.
Yeah, look, I'm pretty well the same, mate. Obviously, Metcalf 7 rounds counts him out of it. If they're going to lob on a playmaker, it'll be Egan through the spine. But it's a really balanced squad, so I think they'll share points pretty evenly. The Warriors. Look, I've got DWZ with a bit of apostrophe, mate. They've signed Khan Pereira from the Titans, who is an out-and-out try scorer. I don't know whether DWZ lasts the season in first grade, so we'll see what happens. I think whoever is on that wing, I think they combine for just about leading try scorer for the competition. I think there are going to be a lot of tries down that edge for them. It'll just be whether DWZ holds that spot for the entire season. It'll be a bit of a watch because I think Khan Pereira is just about a try a game for the Titans, and God bless the Titans. They struggle a bit, so it'll be a really interesting watch, mate.
He is, but he's a bit suspect in defence, and I don't know if that's going to, unless Webster can get him up, I'm not sure if that's going to cut it in that team, which is, I'd say, why Hanley's let him go in the first place, but we will see. SuperCoach.
So Haliasima's at 500,000, so he's a little bit too much for me to lob on to start the season, but 20% of coaches have him in the side at the moment. Unless there's any shock from the round one pick, the only possible one, Tane Tuapicki's just had a little bit of an injury niggle, but he is dual centre fullback. If he jags the spot in front of Nickel Clockstead, which I can't see happening, but if he did, he was a watch out. But unless there's a little bit of a smoky in the round one team selection, mate, the Warriors are a little bit of a no-go zone to start the season for mine.
Yeah, that's fair. Mentally, they got that hard edge in the forward pack, particularly those old heads up front. Yeah, experience across the park, which is so important for winning teams. Webster seems to have brought that Panthers resilience across with him, and they play tougher than Warriors teams have, like, consistently for a long time.
Yep.
And I don't know if this is a thing, but I know whenever I've done any of this, it's like when you travel, there's a certain galvanising impact of that. You look at some of those teams, like the Raiders, as good as they were at home, at one point they had a fantastic away record. You saw what the Warriors did when they had to be in Australia for the lockdown years. Yeah, mate, again, lot to like.
Yeah, I'm really high on the Warriors. I've got them finishing fourth, pending how the semis play out. They play a grand final qualifier at home. They could go all the way on grand final day. So, again, they just got to hang on. Similar to the Roosters, I think the Roosters and the Warriors, if they could be thereabouts come the Origin break, especially for the Warriors, they won't lose too many over Origin, obviously, if any, potentially Catewell. Then they're both going to come home like a train. And I've got the Warriors finishing fourth and see how they go come semi-final time, mate. How you see them?
I got them eighth, and I found it really difficult to separate that second half of the eight. And again, you look at how many of those improving teams, you know, people are talking about some of those teams in and around there being a possibility. Yeah, it's a bit of a logjam there from fifth down. They're best, top four. I just worry about that first 2 months. And then you start, I mean, it may be that Boyd steps up, they get it done, but I just think if they don't start well and they fall in a bit of hole after a couple of months, Origin period should be good, but it might just be a bridge too far, but they'll still make the eight.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting watch, the old Kiwis.
Mate, like we said last week, it's a hard slog trying to fit 17 teams into an order, and there's no doubt we're going to have some spectacular failures there, but you just got to do the best with what you got, right?
Yeah, can't wait to have it all finished, mate. After I think we've got 2 more shows, maybe 3 more shows to get through them all. Posted up on social, so we can get the fans to put a bit of shit on us about where their team's been placed.
Exactly. Yeah, and fans, bring a bit more. Like, too much love. I did have a few people laughing when I did with the article on the Broncos part, but they didn't add any comments. Well, too many people agreeing. Didn't like
You want them to start sledging us, mate, do you?
Well, just give us something.
Well, I'm pretty sure the Manly fans will be coming out after us after that.
Yeah, mate, there is no doubt. Like, there's a few I'm thinking of right now who will be just waiting for that one to go out.
Right. Well, I'm pretty sure I got a couple of Bulldogs and Knights fans that have already started reaching out. We have a chat about them next week. That I won't go softly on either. So we'll see. We'll see what comes in the next couple of weeks.
Well, the Dogs fans think they're going to win the comp, so I don't think they're going to like either of what we got to say, and I'm pretty sure
they're not going to like what I have to say then.
I think the Knights fans, as realistic as they are, they probably still won't like where I've got them. But anyway, we'll see.
Yeah. Very good.
Very good, mate. We will leave it there. And yeah, 4 more teams next week. We are going with, what have we got next week? Dogs, Sharkies, the Dolphins, and the Knights. So we get to have a real rip. Oh, yeah. There's a few teams there that might not like it. Well, there's one team there that I reckon they might like what I've got to say. So we'll look forward to that one.
Can't wait, buddy. Have a good week, mate.
You too, mate. See ya. You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.